There's a storm brewing in the hearts of the collective. And it's been building for a while, but it's starting to reach its boiling point. And I'm wondering if you have also felt it. There's been conversations from channelers and magic messengers for years of the 3D, 5D split, of us evolving into more energetic based beings. There's been conversation of the time is now to step into our power. There's just been a lot of reminders on where our journey is heading and what we are ultimately on this planet at this time to do and to be and to become. And it really feels as we wind down 2025 that we are, I'm getting the image of like stepping out of the waiting area and onto the arena. It's like all of the prep work that we have been doing for years to develop our psychic sight and intuitive abilities, to be discerning in our personal power, to trust our impressions and our instincts, to really master the mind. All of those energies are being called forth to be displayed, to perform as we wind this year down and go into 2026. I feel like some channelers and magic workers and messengers have been pulled into a very hermit card state of being, where they have been pulled back into the shadows to be in internal oneness space within themselves. I've heard conversations of pretty popular influencers that have been asked by spirit to just be in a state of silence and just pull back from their public channels. I have seen magic teachers that have pulled back and have decided not to teach anymore. And so there is this divide even within the spiritual and magical space, where half of the population is being asked to go within, to focus within, to do their inner work in a solitary space. And then the other half of the population is still maintaining a connection with the collective through their output and what they are sharing. Now, there was a very interesting message that I received today as part of finishing up one of the books that I was reading. I recently purchased the Emerald Tablet of Hermes and the Kabbalion. They have these at half price books for $8. And the Hermetic Principles and the Emerald Tablet of Hermes are the foundations of the laws within magic and spiritual transformation, transmutation. And so it's very important to understand the laws. And so I highly recommend anyone take a look at, the Emerald Tablet or the Hermetic Principles specifically. In the last chapter of this book, and it's so interesting how things just kind of unfold in perfect timing. So within the last chapter of this book, Hermetic Axioms, is that how you pronounce it? Axioms? Axioms? It says, from the Kabbalion, the possession of knowledge, unless accompanied by a manifestation and expression in action, is like hoarding of precious metals, a vain and foolish thing. Knowledge, like wealth, is intended for use. It's intended for use. And so I myself have struggled for the past couple years. I went through a very dark night of the soul as I was changing from one environment to the next, right around the time that I moved into this space. Dark night of the soul, very intense energy. And after that, I went through a sort of spiritual identity crisis. Just to the point that I would say I wasn't quite sure where my compass was pointing anymore. You know, were the things that I was doing to share of myself pointless? You know, I kind of fell into that place of there are so many others, which is so interesting that I fell into this place. There are so many others that are sharing of themselves, and we have such an abundance on this stage, on this world stage, of voices, of perspectives, of sharing of knowledge, that it made sense to just kind of withdraw. But that line, knowledge without use is wasted. Knowledge, like wealth, is intended for use. It's intended for use. And so if you are somebody that's like me and you are hungry for knowledge, you are hungry to experience and develop, how can you use that? How can you use it? And you must use it. You must not hide it away. You must not keep it only for yourself. It has to be expressed. It has to be released. It has to be shared. And the only question is how? Through what avenue? By what means? You know, there was a conversation that I saw from Eluna a couple weeks ago. She's one of the channelers that I enjoy following on YouTube. And she was talking about how she dedicated herself every single day to her spiritual practice. And I would also challenge myself, as well as you, to strive for that kind of dedication. And to really think about, how can I show up for my spiritual practice every day? Not in so much as just to cross something off a list or put a check in a box, but to actually hold space with it, communicate with it, work through it, dive deep into it. It's not easy to do. You know, I think about how life was a few decades ago before cell phones were so popular, and life was more boring. But in the space of boredom, more easily bred creativity and magic. And so as we evolve as humans, we must challenge ourselves to choose that space, to schedule time to be in that space. And really, for me, it really has come down to it needs to be scheduled. Because even if it's just something on my habit tracker, if it's not worked into the plan of my day, sure, I accomplish those things, but not with any sort of regularity. You know, we so easily make excuses. Like, I worked hard in my day job. I just want to relax and watch TV. I just want to have a beer. I just want to do this. And yes, having those nights sprinkled within the month is great. But the hours before our day starts and the hours after our day ends are precious treasures that we could choose to share more of our knowledge, understanding that it's not even about what the external reward potentially might be. It's about the act of release. It's about the act of materialization. I've said it many times and I will say it many more times. When you hold space for the truth of your heart and soul with the intent to use and share it, that creates a tunnel, a pocket of magic and mysticism. It creates healing and love. And so we must choose to be brave. We must choose to be courageous. We must choose to be active. We must choose to stand up and be okay to stand apart from the crowd in order to herald in the world that is just on the other side of the threshold at this very moment. So I wanted to pull just a few cards just to get a direct connect from the energy of spirit. There has been so much going on with the energy of 3i Atlas coming out, huge energy shifts with that. A lot of people, like I said, going inward, going still, going quiet, kind of pulling their voice and access back from the collective. And there are those who are maintaining the steady drum of the anchoring of love and magic and healing and really being the force behind Gaia during this time. So I want to see from spirit as we wind down this year, you know, what are energies that we need to focus on? Where does our attention need to be? Where does our heart need to be? What do we need to be aware of, whether it's to release or to bring within to our lives? The first card coming through here is the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles. This definitely has a share vibe, doesn't it? In the original depiction of this card, it is all about perfecting our craft. So the message with this is really the day-to-day. It's the day-to-day routine. It's how we are perfecting the craft of our life. You know, how are we And when I say perfecting, of course I mean progress over perfection. How are we nourishing and nurturing and delving and really squeezing the nectar from life on a daily basis? Are we creating a life that we are proud of living? Are we being courageous? Within our lives to continue to do things that scare us, right? To move beyond that, to not be crippled by fear, but to surpass it. There was another phrase within this book that I wanted to read. It says, if you are possessed of fear, do not waste time trying to kill out fear, but instead cultivate the quality of courage, and the fear will disappear. So what would you like your life to look like? How can you dig into the movements, the rhythms, the frequencies of your day to be aware of where you become disempowered and hijacked and triggered, and what creates those things, and then sink in with them and sit with them, so that way you can transmute them, so that way you can come back to an energy of love and healing. You know, as we work on healing ourselves, so too do we heal the collective. As we focus on the world that we want to create, we move further away from the world that we don't want. We also have the energy of the Emperor. So the Emperor is ruled by the energy of Aries and Mars. And this is all about structure. This is all about responsibility. This is about discipline. This is all about the knowledge, the skill, the wisdom that we have accumulated on our journey, and that it is our responsibility to use those energies to lead others in whatever capacity feels aligned for us. And then I want to get one more card here. Strength. This is an energy of perseverance. This depiction really highlights that sometimes in the external world, there might not be clarity. You might be just like this lion where you're journeying along a foggy path and it isn't quite clear where the path goes. But you have to be strong, you have to be courageous, and you have to trust that you are being led in the right way, to the right place, at the right time. But part of that energy is taking action in courage, in faith. even if you're afraid. I had a meditation earlier where I was doing a shamanic journey and the ground opened into a tunnel that led downward. And my initial thought was, I'm scared to go in this tunnel. Even though this is a psychic travel, I'm not physically doing it. I'm scared. What if the earth collapses around me? What if I suffocate and die? But you have to be willing to take a chance. You have to be brave. And that's what Spirit said to me. It said, would you choose to just sit here and look at the tunnel before you and remain paralyzed in fear because of what if? Or will you choose to trust? Will you choose to be brave and take a leap? Yes, you may die. Yes, the earth may collapse around you, but it also may not. And how strong will you become if you challenge yourself to be courageous when you have only ever chosen fear? And that's what this card says to me. You know, very similar energies. So really, as we're winding this year down, these are the energies before us. 2 major arcana cards. Energies are shifting whether we are taking action or not. But how we can best sink in and align with it is through courage and faith, through belief, through discipline and sharing of our skills and knowledge, through routines and habits that will continue to develop us and propel us in a upward journey, and in the perfection of ourselves and our environments. That can be how we choose to respond instead of reacting. There are so many opportunities every single day for us to choose a better response, for us to choose a response that is more in frequency of love and oneness versus separation and fear and hate. And so we have to catch ourselves, and we have to remind ourselves, who do I want to be? Who am I striving to become? What do I want my life to look like? At the end of my journey, all I have is a person staring back in the mirror at me. How can I be more proud of that person today than I was yesterday? So very intense energies, but very important energies also. Pivotal. And if we can just spend some time in this space and also share of our gifts with others in whatever capacity that looks like, in whatever way is aligned for the individual, we will be doing such a huge part in creating and beckoning, heralding, welcoming the new version of Earth that is just outside the door. It seems simple. Well, not. Hearing it is simple. Putting it into practice might not be. But it's something that we have talked about a lot. I mean collectively, across the months and years. But all the training is done. The gates are open, and you're walking out, and now you're onto the arena. And so it's time to show the world what you have been spending your time doing, what you have been spending your time learning and becoming. we're ready for you.